I like an elusive witch deep in the woods. Everyone knows about her, no one talks about her, and we only pay her a visit in a moment of darkness. Sounds pretty Halloweeny to me.
But not all is dreary around spooky season. There is quite the enchantment and nourishment that comes with the harvest season as well.
Yes, I absolutely do celebrate Samhain, and I will bring pumpkin magic into those celebrations. Well, for Samhain being the celebration of the last harvest, but also that veil between worlds begins to thin. And that's when traditionally Celtic Irish would have used things like turnips to create jack-o'-lanterns, where they would have used the pumpkin to offer protection and ward off unwanted spirits. But over time, as our Irish people moved over to the Americas, and then they found pumpkins and they offered better kind of vessel for those jack-o'-lanterns, and they've made their way back over to the UK. I think it's brought that connection with spirit. Samhain is very much a festival it's a harvest festival. It's the third harvest of the year, and it's the last harvest of the wheel of the year. Samhain for me incorporates that time of slowing down, because we're heading fully into autumn at this point. And the pumpkins, they bring quite a big energy, although they come in different sizes. When I incorporate them into my Samhain kind of rituals, it's very much from a place of gratitude, prosperity, and honouring kind of what has come before, rather than it being about how they're traditionally seen, which is to ward off evil spirits. I've not really had that experience in my practice. I have had some peculiar experiences with spirits, but nothing where I felt like I needed to use the pumpkin to ward them off. I kind of use it more as a way to ground with something that's come from the land. I like to use pumpkins to adorn my altars. They bring in that beautiful rich orange, which is very representative of the seasonal change. So obviously autumn, from a kind of pagan Wiccan background and ethos, is that time of release and letting go. Often we can associate it with kind of that kind of death, because leaves are dying and falling. But yeah, autumn to me is never a time of death and darkness. It very much is slow down. It's rest, recharge. Yeah, you agree. Also reevaluate. I actually find this time more reflective. More time to kind of go, right, we've planted, we've now reaped all those rewards. What worked, what didn't, how do we move forwards? It's giving you the resource and the permission to slow down. They're quite important in terms of sustainability for the colder months, because we can keep them for up to about 3 months. They say about 90 days if we don't, obviously if we carve them, that changes and they will rot away. But having the pumpkin available to eat, and I like to eat with all of it, and again that's part of the magic. Food and herbalism and that kind of resourcefulness is really important. My kids and I, we do like to do some carving of pumpkins that we can put around the house, and that is just to, obviously if you're opening yourself up to connection with spirits, there's always the potential that you might get some unwanted guests, and then the pumpkin's there to ward off any unwanted spirits. I don't necessarily use the term evil spirits, because I don't necessarily feel that's how it works, but we can get unwanted people trying to come through or connect, or energies, not always people's energies. the pumpkins we carve, we hollow out and we let them capture the unwanted spirits. But I like to use pumpkins whole, maybe just taking the top off and placing the candle on top, and then allowing that candle to burn and inviting in the spirit that we want to kind of embody in that pumpkin, I suppose. So I feel in my heart that we can use pumpkins to ward away unwanted spirits. So why can't we use them to call in spirits as well, to bring in that energy? Because if it's got a connection to that kind of portal, that veil thinning, then using the pumpkin to bring in the spirits that we want. So for me, I will get quite a small pumpkin, but I do like a small orange pumpkin, and just take the top off, and then it's placing a short pillar candle into the pumpkin, and then sprinkling some salt for protection, because anything with spirit, it's always good to have that protection there, with some cinnamon, and it makes a lovely crackling sound when it starts to burn down, and the cinnamon's there to invite in any prosperity, any positive messages that any loved ones or spirits want to bring into the space and into that kind of moment. And it's a real nice point to sit and just reflect. I've got some lovely candles, they're about an hour burn, but it can just carve out that time to really sit and ponder. I might journal, I might just put on some music, meditate, and just be present and remember all the loved ones that I've lost in my life, but all that have come before that I haven't known. I think it's probably an underrated part of magic and witchery is that feasting. I like to eat, so I like to indulge in the food. I like to bake bread and have soup and sit with my family, and actually try and share that kind of conversation, I suppose, about talking about loved ones and being present with the loved ones that are still here. At Rogate Pumpkin Patch, obviously Halloween falls in the middle of the school holiday, so they're going to have loads of pumpkins that might still be available at the end, and normally they would give them back to the cattle for eating and put back through the soil, but this year they're going to do an amazing event where it's pumpkin smash. So that will be inviting people to come, smashing up the pumpkins in fun, imaginative, highly messy ways, I would presume, where then that can all go back into the soil, ready for them to plant for the next year. It makes great fertiliser, it's great to pop in your compost bin. It's not great to leave out for wildlife, I will always say that, because it's can be quite harmful for certain animals. But popping it in a compost bin, letting it rot down, putting it on flower beds ready for the next year will help kind of provide extra nutrition. So although in one respect people might see that as being quite wasteful, actually if we've got an abundance of this vegetable, because it does grow so beautifully in our climate, if it's not going to be eaten, rather than allowing it just to rot away, giving it back to the soil and feels so much more special, because it's giving the soil the kind of right environment ready for the next harvest. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And that's what I like about the pumpkin, is that it kind of almost does represent a bit of the wheel. I almost feel as well with the shape of it. I like to get my pumpkins from a local farm, being Rogate, because it's the lands where I now live, and it's where I'm certain some of my ancestors have lived. So it's kind of that land lineage and bloodline connection as well. And this idea that at this time of year, this magic comes to life. There's felt this real kind of empowerment of kind of embracing that we are cyclical beings, that we are here to follow the seasons and live in kind of harmony with nature rather than resisting them. And the more I've kind of opened myself up to that and embraced it, the more slightly weird and unusual things have happened, which has been quite magical, really. It's changed massively how I live now. Even if people aren't necessarily this way inclined, thinking about the seasons and things, it's become a tradition. I like the tradition of it, that people get their pumpkins and carve them and just, connect. So people might know that they're doing witchcraft, but they are.